The theme of the day is living limitless. I wish I could live limitless. Maybe you do too. You wish you could live limitless. But I, like you, am faced with my limitations every day. I make mistakes at work that I regret later and I have to fix. I say things that I shouldn't sometimes, and I regret it afterwards. I can't remember where I put my keys or my phone half the time. My office is a mess. I get tired. Sometimes I get stressed and I get emotional. Sometimes I wish I could just hire a robot friend who would come and do all the difficult and stressful tasks for me. Sometimes I even wish I could have some kind of implant put in my head that would improve my performance or turn up or turn down certain habits I have. At one time, these thoughts, hiring a robot to do your work for you or getting an implant to improve your performance, was really the stuff of fantasy, of science fiction. The day is coming when these will be real options we will have, and that's the subject of my talk today. So I'm a researcher. I think of myself as someone who studies intelligence. Biological intelligence, that's a fancy word for human behavior. And in the last couple of years, I've been thinking and writing about artificial intelligence. What is intelligence anyway? Well, intelligence is the ability to perceive, to learn, to reason, to solve problems, to comprehend language, and to adapt behavior to new circumstances. How can we study how people do this? Well, let me show you our experimental laboratory that we have here at the university. This room is actually in this building downstairs. It's an experimental laboratory. It's a social science laboratory. There are no test tubes, there are no beakers, there are no dissected animals, no lasers anywhere to be found here. We bring people in here, they come and they sit at these stations and they make decisions. We give them more money the better they do to have the right incentives. Now, this is a powerful method. You can learn a lot from doing this. And thousands of researchers worldwide are using this technique. Let me give you an example of the kind of thing we can learn. Suppose we bring a bunch of people in and we have them make a decision between option L for left, option right for option R for right. Under option left, die is rolled. If it comes up 1, 2, or 3, you get 90 euros. If it comes up 4, 5, or 6, you get 60 euros. And then another die is rolled. If that one comes up 1, 2, or 3, you get an additional 40. If it comes up 4, 5, or 6, you lose 40. That's option L. Option R is similar, but not exactly the same. A die is rolled. If it comes up 1, 2, or 3, you get 90. 4, 5, and 6, you get 60. But if it comes up 1, 2, or 3, and you get 90, you get another die roll where you can win or lose 40. Now, about 2/3 of the people, when offered this choice, choose right. About a third choose left. If you choose left, it tells us a lot about you. If you're somebody who chooses left, you're more likely to get into debt, accumulate credit card balances, have no savings, not have a house, and not finish your education. So we can learn a lot about people from just a simple choice like this. So the experimental method is very powerful. Now, what are the general conclusions from experimental research? Well, normally people are pretty good at making decisions. They have a pretty good nose for what are profitable decisions, what makes them more money. They have a pretty good instinct to avoid really bad choices. But people are better in some situations than others. They have their foibles, and sometimes they make mistakes. Some problems are just too hard. That shouldn't surprise you. Some problems are just too hard, and you make mistakes. Some decisions are simple, but they trick you. You just get tricked because you need an insight to solve it the right way, and you don't get the insight right off the bat, and you make a mistake. Some other decisions require just too much patience and too much willpower, more than most of us have. And sometimes emotions get in the way. Let me spend a couple minutes on emotions. So emotions are things that normally help us. If we have a gut feeling a choice is the right one, we're usually right. If we have a gut feeling that we should stay away from something, you should usually go with it. But sometimes emotions can really affect what we do and make us make bad choices, getting afraid and angry, for example. Let me show you how we can measure emotions. Well, we can take a facial expression, and we can use some software to look at the distances of different points on the face and the texture of those points, and classify the facial image based on the emotions it reflects. So here's my official university picture. As you can see, it's kind of a phony smile. I don't really like having my picture taken. And that shows up in the face reading output. So I'm mostly happy, about 2/3 happy, but I've got a 6th disgust, and I've got a 6th neutrality. Now, some people are really good at getting rid of their positive emotions in a picture. Here's an example of a gentleman who's very good at it. This is President Obama's official White House presidential photo. As you can see, the only emotions in this picture are happy and neutral. He's 55% happy, 45% neutral. There's not a hint of negative emotion anywhere. Now, somehow I think this is not his typical state at the end of the day. I think this is probably more typical. Here he is in a press conference, and you can see we've got a combination, basically, of sad, happy, neutral, and angry. So I think that's his typical state. One area where emotions are thought to affect the economy is in market behavior. So we hear a lot of commentary about how the stock market goes up when there's an indicator of positive emotion. The stock market being low is an indicator of negative emotions. Alan Greenspan famously remarked when the stock market exhibited a rapid run-up in the 1990s that it exhibited an irrational exuberance. A happy emotion meant higher prices. Warren Buffett, in an op-ed piece in the New York Times in 2008, he said that his motto was, "Be greedy when others are fearful." For him, fear meant low prices and good opportunities to buy. Now, can we put some scientific basis on this intuition? Well, let's see if we can. Now, with the experimental method, it's possible to create a stock market, an asset market, a stock market, where you know the fair value, the correct value of the stock. And if you create a market and people trade it, you can say that prices are too high or too low compared to where they should be with a sound scientific basis for doing so. Let me show you what happens when you do that. So this is an experimental market. This is the price level, and this is time. The fair value here is in the blue line. Now, suppose you bring people who look happy when they're coming into the experimental lab. They just look happy on arrival, and you put them in a market. These are the prices that their market are going to generate. You got a big, much higher than fair value, and it crashes here. There's a big crash. Those are the happy people. They're not so happy by the time you get down here. Now, some people are unhappy coming in. You have them participate in the market, and you see the prices are much lower than the happy people. So the emotions people really predict what the market is going to do. How about a bunch of fearful people? You bring people who look afraid even before they begin their experiment, and you can see here's the fair value, and the prices track the fair value very closely. So fear is good in this situation. Now, so that's who we are. We have cognitive limits. We exhibit emotions. They really affect what happens in the economy. Will we ever go beyond this? Will we ever overcome this? Now we come to the second area that I've been thinking and reading about recently, and that's artificial intelligence, or robo-sapiens. Increasingly in our society, important economic decisions are being made by artificial entities rather than humans. So these come in three main forms. So computer programs, bots, algorithmic traders are making more and more of the critical decisions in our economy. These are computer programs with no bodies. Sometimes artificial intelligence has a body, a robot. Robot workers are going to permeate our economy in the coming decades. Finally, augmented humans with implants, the rapid advance in brain-computer interface, and these will only continue in the future. Now, what will all this do to the economy? Let's imagine an economy with lots of artificial agents making decisions. How would the life of a typical family of four be different than it is today? Well, augmented humans can be expected to come up with all kinds of innovations we never would have dreamed of. Robot workers will be able to. The use of robot workers will make production much more efficient, prices lower. So the upshot of all that is the average family will have a lot more stuff. They'll be able to consume a lot more than they do today. The economy will work much more efficiently. They will have robot workers at home doing all the yucky jobs that they had to do themselves before that they don't want to do now. Will the parents of our family of four be working? Well, economic logic is pretty clear on this point. As long as they want to work, and as long as they want to work, they'll be able to. A valuable resource in the economy will never go unused. So they'll be able to work. It's just that the jobs that they'll be doing are different than the jobs that they're doing today. What kind of jobs might those be? Well, robots might get better at humans at every single task you can imagine. But the question to ask is, where is it that the robots will have the least advantage? And that's where you'll find humans. So if it's a job that involves high-level computation, a quant, for example, we have no chance. Robots are way ahead of us. If it's a job that involves a physical task that's repetitive, like an assembly line worker, we have no chance. The robots will blow us away. Where we might have a chance is physical jobs that are not repetitive in nature and have some creativity involved. So, we should still be able to be the chefs, the artful landscapers, designers, etc. But where we really have our biggest future niche, I think, is in services. So, no matter how advanced we get, many clients will prefer to deal with humans, human service personnel than machines. And as long as some people want to deal with humans, as long as we still like each other, there'll be a role for us in the economy. Now, so will all this make us happier? Well, it's hard to predict the future, but maybe the last 60 years can serve as a guide. So over the last 60 years in Western countries, the average income has gone up by 5 to 10 times, factor of 5 to 10. Have we gotten any happier? No, not really. We're about the same. There's an argument about this, arcane research argument. Maybe we're a tiny bit happier, but not much, if any bit happier. So there's no reason to think that all this advances, all these improvements in the economy, all this more stuff that we're going to have is really going to make us any happier. But not unhappier either. Finally, how will these robo-sapiens behave? With an economy full of artificial entities making decisions, how will they behave? Well, we can program them to be able to solve really hard problems, have as much patience and willpower as they need, to learn to avoid getting tricked by simple but tricky tasks, to have no emotion or to fake their emotions. We could do that. But we could also program them to be just like us. In fact, we might like them better that way. Probably what's going to happen is that we'll have robo-sapiens that are different. We'll have a variety of them. We'll have a population with some that are like us and some that are better than us. But ultimately, it's really our choice to make. Our future is up to us. Thank you.